Hello everybody, happy Wednesday. Coach Brandy coming to you today for Coffee with Coach Brandy in the kitchen because we're talking about nutrition and specifically we're talking about protein today. So this is going to be a little bit longer of a video first of all, so even if you can't stick around for the whole thing right off the bat live, do at least make sure that you check this back out in the Facebook group on the feed. You can definitely watch it on a replay. I promise you every little bit of information we're going to go over today is something you're going to want to soak up and soak in, so pen and paper is helpful. And then I also want to do a little disclaimer too, talking about nutrition, talking about protein specifically. Make sure to consult your physician, your doctor, whether you work with a registered dietitian, whoever you would consult with rather, to make sure that everything that you're choosing to do in your life is best for you. So let's dive into protein. So interestingly enough, most of the women that come to us at Feed Your Soul Fitness dominantly undereat. They're under consuming calories, they're under eating food, and overall not having enough nourishment. And dominantly, a lot of this is a lack of protein. And so you guys have heard me talk a lot about macros. The macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. And we've talked a lot about how when you have let me just say that right. If you have the wrong amount of portions of protein, carbs, and fats, that's what can really affect your health. That's what can affect your body composition. So we're going to kind of take a deep dive into protein today because it's so critical. So many of the conversations I'm having with women, they're talking about having a lot of sugar cravings, that nighttime snacking, they're feeling sore, they're feeling weak, and this is really from a lack of protein. So the biggest pieces of why we need protein in our system on a regular and consistent basis is it's meant for building and repairing muscle. So one of the things that happened to me right before I jumped into macros is I was always sore, I was always hurting, whether I was working out, doing yoga, running, even just kind of like rest days, if you will. I just always felt sore. And so a lot of my body was not able to repair and recover because I wasn't giving it enough protein. I absolutely, hands down, thought I was consuming enough protein because I did consume dairy products. I absolutely am a meat eater. We usually have meat for lunch, meat for dinner. I often had eggs and yogurt for breakfast, but it really wasn't enough. And it was a game changer for me and how my body felt for when I actually started to get the right amount of protein in. Protein will also help us feel a lot more full and a lot more satisfied. So if you're like me, and like I said, most women who come to us are under eating. They're just kind of sucked into that. The less calories I eat, the less I'm gonna weigh, more of like a snacker grazer kind of thing. Well, I'm the opposite end. If anything, I overeat. And so protein has helped to really keep me satisfied and feeling full. So, if I would just eat kind of a carb-based breakfast or lunch, I'd be hungry within an hour. It just wouldn't last long. As I started to implement more and more protein in different day parts, from breakfast, lunch, dinner, to snacks, things like that, those types of things went away. And then, like I said earlier, it definitely helps reduce cravings. And you may say, I don't have a lot of cravings. Well, if you're sitting there nighttime snacking, just kind of mindlessly, popcorn, chocolate, cookies, whatever, it's because you really didn't get enough nourishment throughout the day. And that can definitely come from carbohydrates, and we can talk about that at another point in time, but it's absolutely stemming from protein. So your next question for me might be, how much protein should I have, Coach Brandy? And I can't tell you it's X amount because you are an individual. And I see Patty and I see Jessica joining us. And I know that even just those two women are going to have different amount of protein allotments compared to someone like me, compared to another person like that. And it also varies from male to female. So with all those types of variables, if you're really trying to better understand, that would be better for like a one-on-one consult, just because there is no broad, hey, everybody should be eating this much or even a minimum of that much. But what I can tell you is 99% of the time, you're protein deficient. And so there's some free apps out there that exist, from MyPlate to Noom to MyFitnessPal. And the hard part about that, and a really huge reason of why we created our SoulFit nutrition programs, is first of all, those apps are incorrect. It's artificial intelligence. You're only plugging in a few variables, age, height, weight, things like that, but they don't really know enough about you as a human. And so the goals that it spits out are really, really low calorically, they're really, really low macronutrient realms. So if you're going to use an app like that, I really, really would advocate for you to not use the goals that it automates for you. And then it kind of falsifies messages. MyFitnessPal, for example, if you put in your age, your height, your weight, it's going to give you your goals. Again, they're going to be way low, but then all of a sudden you start tracking and it's like, oh, you've hit your protein goal for the day. However, that protein goal is extremely low. You're not hitting your protein goal. I went through that. Again, why I created Soul Fit Nutrition Program. So really, the focus of MyFitnessPal is using it just as the function of an actual food diary, just a food log. And because it does have decent information as far as macronutrients, like if you were to track a half a cup of cottage cheese, what does that look like from a protein standpoint? And we all take what MyFitnessPal does with a grain of salt. It's definitely a good way to get yourself started to tracking and creating that awareness. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. However, tracking and everything is not really meant to be 100% permanent for the rest of your life. I think it's really important to spend a period of time, anywhere between 3 and 12 months, depending on your goals, depending on your learning curve, your individual lifestyle. That due diligent time will teach you a lot about what your current habits are. If you tend to be an eyeballer, if you tend to have an issue with your reality versus your perception, that's a really good tool to use and to pair with a human coach so that you can start to see some of your patterns and behaviors. So you can start to see what it is you're doing really well and where it is that you're struggling and how to blend them together. And so we're going to talk today about how to source your proteins, whether it's from meat products, dairy products, nuts, grains, plant-based aspects. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to, some tips as far as like front loading your day, making sure your snacks incorporate protein so that you're not just sitting there at dinner trying to eat 10 ounces of meat, because nobody wants to do that. So again, get your pen, get your paper. I'm going to start flinging quite a bit at you guys. So let's talk about sources first and foremost. So I alluded to the fact that I'm a dairy eater and a meat eater, and I know some people have different food sensitivities. So whether you don't have dairy or you don't eat red meat, obviously take all of this with a grain of salt. And again, that's where working with a one-on-one individual human coach can really meet you where you're at, whether you stay away from soy products, maybe you don't touch seafood, maybe you don't eat anything that has legs. Like, there's a lot of these different like cultural lifestyle choices around nutrition, and we always honor that. So today, let's talk a little about meat. We're going to start with the classic meat, and that is chicken. And I will tell you first and foremost, chicken in your diet is so, so helpful if meat is a part of your world. And I know you might be like, well, Brandy, I hate chicken. Chicken's boring. I can't eat any more chicken. Well, I will tell you, it is not the chicken's fault. You can prepare chicken in so many different ways with so many different flavor profiles, from baking to grilling to broiling to poaching, or not poaching, but boiling. I said broiling and boiling. And there's so many, again, different types of flavor profiles. You can do shredded chicken, cubed chicken, chicken breast, ground chicken. It's just, it's endless. So if you're bored with chicken, see if you can seek out some ways to change it, because 4 ounces, and 4 ounces is kind of the default I chose for a lot of these items, because that's kind of the bare minimum. And if you don't know what 4 ounces looks like, or you think you know what 4 ounces looks like, I would invest in a food scale. They're usually 15 to 20 bucks. You can get it at Target, you can get it on Amazon, and start putting it on the ounce and start putting your meat on there cooked, okay? And so when you have 4 ounces of cooked chicken, not raw, you're gonna see what that actually is. And then you might be like, well, I'm probably only eating more like 2 or 3. Well, that's step 1. Incrementally build your way up from 2 ounces to 3, 3 to 4. And you can also do those half ounces from 2 to 2.5, 3 to 3.5, so on and so forth, especially if you're kind of programmed and your default is to undereat and just eat very, very small bits of food. And so 4 ounces of chicken, write this down, is going to yield 36 grams of protein. Hello, that's amazing. And that is chicken breast specifically, whereas 6 ounces is going to get you 54 grams of protein. Now, again, if you're used to eating 2 ounces of chicken, if that's your normal portion, 6 is going to feel like a big jump. So take your time working your way there. Gradually work on that. It's not like you would gradually increase every single day, but I would pick a span of 4 weeks and kind of chart out your timeline of whether you're increased by a half of an ounce or a full ounce, to work your way from 2 to 4, to work your way from 4 to 6. And it doesn't mean that every single time you eat chicken, it needs to be 6 ounces, but I would really advocate for your lunch and for your dinner to have 4 to 6 ounces of meat. You're definitely going to do yourself a lot of favors from a protein aspect with that. Moving on to another meat item is turkey. So again, turkey can come in turkey breast. You can do ground turkey. And one of the things I wanted to tell you about, whether you're choosing ground turkey or ground chicken, when you hear the word ground, think fat. So it's processed, right? And so there's different parts of the chicken that are incorporated in this. So the fat content goes up. So it's a little tastier because of that. And even if you drain the fat, it's just something that I would be cognizant of. And I would also lean to stay away from like the deli meats, like the Oscar Mayer sliced chicken, the Oscar Mayer sliced turkey. If you need to go that deli route from a convenience standpoint here or there, from a budget standpoint here or there, I would highly advocate for at least like a Boar's Head type product versus an Oscar Mayer type product. But ground turkey, again, 4 ounces, kind of that default minimum, is going to get you 19 grams of protein. On the same note, that ground turkey, that 4 ounces, is going to get you 17 grams of fat. So it's going to be quite a bit of the fat, whereas a turkey breast is going to get you, with 4 ounces, write this down, 36 grams of protein and only 2 grams of fat. So you can see why choosing the turkey breast over the ground turkey, the chicken breast over the ground chicken is going to be important. And of course, obviously, we know with turkey, there can be the white meat, the dark meat. We know the white meat has a lot less fat. So just small considerations. Turkey bacon is another one of my big staples, and I want to make sure that I advocate for you guys to get the less processed types. I'm not a big fan of Jennie-O. You can take a look at the back of the label. And if the ingredients go on for days and there's a bunch of things you can't pronounce, and if it starts with sugar, put that package down. We actually purchase ours from Costco. There's just a small list of ingredients. It really is about the turkey and it's about how it's formed, and there's no sugar, and I love that. And so 2 slices of turkey bacon yields 12 grams of protein. Write that down. Let's talk a little bit about the seafood realm. Fish, lobster, scallops, you name it. Now, personally, I don't eat fish, not because of an allergy, but because of a preference, but I love fish. So we'll start with cod. Again, default 4 ounces. I love 6 ounces. Cod is nice and light, so 6 ounces of cod is going to feel different than like 6 ounces of chicken or 6 ounces of beef. 4 ounces of cod, 20 grams of protein. So good. Salmon, and we know there's like a couple different types of salmon. You can go to the meat counter, and there's kind of that slight light pink salmon, and then you get like the almost like orange salmon. Well, the orange salmon is better for you. That's like the wild sockeye salmon. I would really lean towards that versus like the farm raised. And so the wild sockeye, 4 ounce default, write this down, 25 grams of protein. It's amazing, okay? So again, making sure that you're weighing that salmon when it's cooked. You're weighing that cod when it's cooked. Salmon usually has a skin to it. Remove the skin and weigh it to really make sure you're getting that authentic 4 ounces. Now, are you weighing your fish for forever? Like I said, no. But at least start to train your eye, like what that new eyeball is, to make sure it's enough of that protein. Finishing up on the fish realm, scallops. The seafood, I should say, scallops. 4 ounces of scallops will yield around 14 grams of protein. Lobster meat, 4 ounces of lobster meat, write this down, 17 grams of protein. Now, a lot of times the salmon, the lobster, the scallops, the cod can start off in a really healthy standpoint with all this protein, and then it starts to turn into an unhealthy dish as we add bacon wrapped scallops, as we load butter onto the cod, as we dip our lobster in tubs of heated butter. So make those considerations for how you're preparing these food items to really make sure that you're getting the purest form of protein, but you're being mindful of what you're adding into it. A couple more categories in the meat I wanted to talk about. Ham steaks. So ham steaks are really great. 4 ounces of a ham steak will yield 18 grams of protein. And Canadian bacon, popular breakfast item, a nice snack. 3 slices of Canadian bacon, 10 grams. And so could I have mentioned 50 million more types of meats like bison, beef, pork? Yes, absolutely. But obviously for time's sake, I only wanted to list a few. However, doing what I did where I went through my Fitness Pal and I took a look at 4 ounces of all these entries, yes, there's multiple entries. And so you're kind of looking at some of what those averages are to educate yourself. And so yes, a big part of this nutrition is the education. And that's another something we provide in our one-on-one coaching, because sometimes that's the missing link. That's the missing key. Let's jump into the dairy category. Hopefully you still have your pen and paper. Julie, I want to welcome you. I saw you pop on. Let me get a sip of coffee. So from the dairy, let's kick it off with eggs and egg whites. So 1 cup of egg whites, the liquid egg whites, 1 cup, write this down, 20 grams of protein. Yes, that's a big winner. Whereas 2 large eggs are going to yield 13 grams of protein. However, at the same time, due to the yolks, you're also going to be consuming 10 grams of fat. So it's not that whole eggs are bad for you. You just have to be really aware of, if you're making a 3-egg omelet, you might want to remove 1 or 2 of those yolks. You want the nutrients of 1 or 2 yolks. But if you're going to be adding in avocado, cheese, any type of turkey bacon, things like that, the fat's going to incrementally go up. And so that's why I personally lean into egg whites, and that's why I recommend for people who love whole eggs to crack the whole eggs and then supplement some extra egg whites to bump that number up. Another big staple, Greek yogurt. And we want to advocate for plain Greek yogurt. And we want to advocate for like a 2%. We know that there's whole milk ones. We know there's non-fat ones. I would advocate to kind of back off the non-fat ones. Usually there's a lot more sugar involved with it, just because the taste has really been compromised by that removal of the fat. So I usually kind of go right down the middle with a 2%. So 1 cup of a 2% plain Greek yogurt will yield 23 grams of protein. What an amazing way to start your day. What a great snack. And the beauty about that is you can add honey to it. You can add, a quarter cup of granola. You can add some fresh berries to it. There's a lot you can do to dress up some plain yogurt. Sometimes we want a little bit of flavor to our yogurt. Sometimes we need that convenience of having just that little yogurt tub that we can pull out at work, have on a snack, eat while we're in the car. And so those little small single serving yogurts are popular. You'll notice that there's a lot of brands out there like Yoplait and whatnot. Take a look again at your food labels to see if there's high fructose corn syrup in there, to see where the sugar lies. And that's why I rely on the Chobani, either no sugar or low sugar. The Greek Oikos, I think they call it the AAA. I think that's what they call it. Protein yogurts are great. Traditionally, those single serving, low sugar, Greek yogurt, semi-flavored yogurts will yield 12 grams of protein per single serving. So what I'm a big fan of is taking and scooping out that single serve and then adding to supplement plain Greek yogurt on top of that, kind of like what we do with 1 whole egg and then adding some egg whites. We want to supplement to add volume to that. So I highly recommend that. Couple more dairy things, cottage cheese, 1 cup, 2% will yield 26 grams of protein. Again, you can dress it up with some berries, whatever sounds good to you. I also like to heat mine up and mix it into some meat. It's a really good way to make the meat a little bit more moist and really get that protein up there. Low-fat ricotta cheese, excellent to mix in with eggs, excellent to have on like Ezekiel bread. 1 cup of low-fat ricotta cheese, 20 grams of protein. So even if you cut that in half, 10 grams of protein, great bump, delicious food. And then ending up with some more dairy items like Baby Bell cheese, string cheese. Those are going to yield like 4 to 6 grams of protein per piece of string cheese per Baby Bell. And then last in that dairy category is the whey protein powder. Whey protein powder is usually going to be about 16 to 20 grams of protein per scoop. And protein shakes are really helpful for protein. So what we're going to do here in a minute is we're going to finish up with the nuts section and then kind of the plant-based section. And then I'm going to run through and give you guys an example of what a full day from breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks to dessert could be as an example with ample amount of protein. So make sure you're hanging in there with me. Let's jump into fats. Hopefully you still have your pen and paper. Default, quarter cup. Quarter cup of cashews, 5 grams of protein. Quarter cup of pistachios, 6 grams of protein. Quarter cup of walnuts, 5 grams of protein. What you need to be sensitive to this is nuts get a little addicting. You might grab a handful thinking it's a quarter cup, but it's more likely a half a cup. And the other thing with nuts is the fats add up really fast. And yes, they are good for you fats, but you can still eat too much of a good thing, right? So be careful with your nuts. Make sure that you track that for a period of time. Make sure you measure that for a period of time so you can set your default eyeball to the proper amount. Peanut butter falls in this category. I think a lot of times people think of peanut butter as an excellent protein source, and it absolutely can be, but again, high on those fats. And also it really depends on the type of peanut butter that you choose. Things like Skippy, Peter Pan, Jif, you're gonna get a lot of added molasses, high fructose corn syrup, palm oil, things like that. So stick with brands like Adams. Santa Cruz has a couple different kinds where it's literally the only ingredient is peanuts, as it should be. But 2 tablespoons of peanut butter will yield 8 grams of protein. However, again, it's going to be higher in fat. So make sure that you're measuring out your peanut butter. Don't just start scooping out and licking it off the knife. It gets dangerous that way. Let's end with plant. I want to welcome KZ and Tiffany. They popped on. So the plant type realms from a plant-based protein powder to protein pastas, quinoa, things like that. So protein pasta is really popular. I actually had this last night for dinner. One of my favorite brands is Banza, B-A-N-Z-A. It's a plant-based chickpea, high fiber, high protein carbohydrate. And so if you're going to have pasta, you might as well give yourself this gift and ramp up that protein, because 3 ounces of Banza pasta will give you 18 grams of protein. So yes, there's going to also be a lot of carbs involved with that, but way better for you than just the white enriched flour. Plant-based protein powder usually will pack a little bit more protein versus the whey, depending on the serving and the brand, but usually 18 to 20 grams as well. Quinoa. Quinoa is a high item for vegetarians who don't eat meat, don't eat dairy, to be able to accrue some protein. However, it can be high in carbs, and that's a little like rabbit hole we'll take for a second. Those of you guys who are vegetarian, you're not eating dairy, you're not eating soy, you're not eating meat, you're going to be a lot more challenged to get those protein numbers up. And if you've never worked with a professional to work on that, I highly advocate for it, because I guarantee you're not eating enough. But with some strategy, with some education, we can get you there. So quinoa, 1 cup of that, which is quite a bit, will give you 8 grams of protein, but it's going to be very high in carbohydrates. So balance that accordingly. Edamame, 1 cup, write this down, 13 grams of protein. And then last but not least, 1 cup of soy milk will be around 6 grams of protein. So hopefully you've had a chance to write down some of these examples of how much as a default and what that yields for protein. And that's really what this is all about. And so taking all of that information, I basically wrote up an example of a day of food where you would accrue a substantial amount of protein, too much protein, but I wanted to paint the picture for you of how this could look. Write this down. Breakfast example, 3 slices of Canadian bacon, 10 grams of protein, 1 cup of egg whites, 20 grams of protein, 1 cup of soy milk, 6 grams of protein. You add that up, we get 36 grams of protein. Of course, naturally, that breakfast is going to incorporate vegetables, fruits, things like that. We're just talking about protein. Every single meal you have, if you're getting started with wanting to eat more, I would aim to eat at least 20 grams of protein, then incrementally bump yourself up to 25, incrementally bump yourself up to 30. So that breakfast having 36 grams of protein, you're doing what we call front loading the day. You're starting early. If you're just eating a muffin, if you're just eating a bagel, if you're just having coffee, if you're just having a banana, it's not enough. A snack, mid-morning snack, half of an apple, for example, with a half a cup of cottage cheese, 13 grams of protein. Lunch, an example, 4 ounces of turkey breast, 1 slice of pepper jack, maybe that's on a sandwich, maybe it's open faced, maybe you roll it up, and then 1 cup of shelled edamame, 54 grams of protein. Sounds like a great lunch to me. Another snack in the afternoon, a protein shake. Drink that shake. Maybe you blend it up with some nuts in it. Maybe you have the nuts on the side. Quarter cup of nuts, plant-based or whey-based protein shake, 24 grams of protein. Dinner, we're almost done. 4 ounces of cod, 3 ounces of protein pasta, and a half a cup of mozzarella cheese. Sounds amazing to me. 60 grams of protein. Your dessert, 1 tablespoon measured out of your favorite peanut butter, 4 grams of protein. If you were to add all that up, 191 grams of protein. Now, that's too much. Did it on purpose. But just to paint the picture of how you want to strategically place protein in breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 snacks, maybe a little dessert. And this helps you to make sure you're eating every few hours or so to keep that metabolism revving. That's the other thing to loop around at the very beginning. Those of you guys who are under eating, you're going 4, 6, 8 hours without eating. Not really the best for you. So that's it. That was a long coffee with Coach Brandy. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me for all this protein. If this was helpful for you, give me a like, give me a love. If you have comments about what some of your favorite protein sources are, if you have questions about protein, if you want to book a call with me to talk about individual coaching, to learn more about protein and how we can apply it to your life, comment below, send me a DM. It was a pleasure to spend some time with you guys, diving into this and spending some more time. If you have any questions, I'm always here for you guys. Otherwise, I'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.